You're listening to the Fit Bottom Girls podcast, the only podcast for active, athletic, and adventurous women and those who aspire to be. We've got your back as you navigate the ups and the downs of motherhood, midlife, and menopause. I'm your host, Allison Hylett, here to remind you that female isn't fragile. I'm a strength, conditioning, and nutrition coach who's trained hundreds of women to achieve their goals to get fit, lift heavy, go the distance, and feel like a badass in every area of their lives. Each week, you'll hear from me and some of our awesome guests as we educate and empower you during each stage of your fitness journey, whether you're already crushing it, fighting to get back out there, or starting from day one. So friends, let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fit Bottom Girls podcast. Today's episode is one that every mom, caregiver, and mentor to young girls needs to hear, because body image concerns start earlier than we think, often before girls even reach middle childhood. And moms or primary caregivers are the ultimate body image influencers. So how do we foster a positive, healthy relationship with our own bodies so that we can pass on that confidence down to the next generation? To help answer that question, I'm joined by two incredible experts in psychology and development, Dr. Janet Boseovski and Dr. Ashleigh Gallagher. Dr. Boseovski is a professor and head of the Department of Psychology at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. She co-directs the Duck Lab, a child development research lab, and has spent over 20 years studying how children develop socially and cognitively. Dr. Gallagher is a senior lecturer in psychology at UNC Greensboro with a focus on social cognition and gender. Together, they've written a book, Beyond Body Positive, a mother's science-based guide for helping girls build a healthy body image. This book is an essential resource for moms raising daughters ages 3 to 10, offering research-backed strategies to help girls develop a strong, resilient body image, one that isn't tied to how they look, but who they are. In today's conversation, we dive deep into the science of how body image develops, how moms can break the cycle of diet culture, and what practical steps we can take to help our daughters and young girls and ourselves think about our bodies in a whole new way. Get ready for an insightful and empowering conversation. Let's dive in. Welcome, Janet and Ashleigh. Thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having us.
You all have written a book called Beyond Body Positive, a mother's science-based guide for helping girls build a healthy body image. And what I love about it is that it was published by the American Psychological Association book. So it's been fully peer reviewed. It meets scientific standards. But instead of it being a lot of subjective, fluffy, anecdotal body image advice, your book is really focused on concrete findings about what actually creates, perpetuates, and changes body image in our lifetimes. This was not an easy project, was it?
It was not. It was very complex, especially when you consider both the body image issues for grown women and then the ones for growing girls, indeed.
Yeah.
So having the two of us there and having two different expertise levels was super helpful for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been several years we've been working on this, and it's really a moving target too, because so much changes in the public conversation about this daily.
Totally. You had mentioned there's two pieces to this subject and to what we're going to be talking about today. And the first piece that we're going to look at is from the mother's perspective. I think we can all agree that the first and perhaps the biggest influence that we have on our body image is our moms, and more importantly, how we experience their relationship with their bodies, what kind of baggage our moms have around their body image. But tell me a bit about why you wrote the book. And as experts in the field, what was missing that made you want to write it?
Sure. So there's a few answers there. But first and foremost, as scientists, we have access to a literature that regular folks don't have access to and don't have time to go through.
Yeah.
And we had just started a reading group about the topic with a student. We're all interested in body image. We're women. We're also academics. So why not look at the science? And through that process, we realized that there is a big literature that covers women and moms, and there's a big literature that covers girls. But there was nothing that brought the two together and nothing that did that beginning in early childhood, which is another sort of key thing for us, is that these cultural messages, as you know, start very early. The influences, the diet culture, all of that. And so we took it upon ourselves to say, hey, we really need to put this together and do something that is actionable for moms who are raising girls, and also just for women in general to reflect about their own body image and how they got to where they are in terms of how they're feeling about their bodies.
We were hearing so much from public discourse about this topic. And as scientists, the two of us excited to maybe share with moms something that was more evidence based because there's a lot out there that's contradictory and then you're not sure who to listen to. So for us, we go to science for the sure thing as far as recommendations are concerned. So we wanted to share that with moms.
I was reading through it. One of the things that was really impressive about what you've done here is that this is not like somebody speaking over head. This is like, here's what we know. Here's how you apply that. Here's ways that that shows up in real time in your real life. So as I'm reading through it, I really appreciate that aspect of it. And it is like connecting dots. We know about the importance of our moms. We know that teenagers are struggling, but you're right. It's starting earlier. Kids are being subjected to these messages earlier, and we need some guidance there. Let's not wait until they're teenagers to sort it out. Let's look at those roots.
Exactly. Unfortunately, like fat bias, weight bias emerges very early, and there's literature that shows that. And that's not because kids are bad, right? That's because the culture is giving you the message that a certain type of body is the ideal body. And you hand a girl a book when she's a preteen, she's already absorbed so much of that. And we want to say, let's be preemptive. Let's actually arm you with things that are important. Let's focus on the things that matter so that you're kind of protected, right? From all of the stuff that's going to pummel you, whether that's coming from there are families where there are eating issues or body image issues. You're being raised by a mom who, our generation certainly was raised in this toxic diet culture. And we're trying to now undo that. And why not try to work on it from the ground up to sort of spare the next generation and do a service for them, but also in the process, do a service for us and reflecting on, okay, why am I the way that I am? And how can I give myself a break? And how can I understand myself? Because, Ashley and I talk about women feel so guilty that they can't get it together, right?
Yeah.
You feel like, why is this still an issue for me? Why is it an issue? Because it's everywhere. Because your entire life, you've kind of been told that there's something with you that's inherently wrong. And that something is always a moving target. Is it your shoulders? Is it your booty? What is it this time? Are you supposed to be curvy? Are you supposed to be thin? I mean, you will never win that game. And I know you've talked about that before on this podcast. And so we need a different approach, right? And we need that approach earlier in life for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, let's start with the title, Beyond Body Positivity. When I saw that, I initially thought, what's beyond body positivity? But you clarify that right out of the gate in the book, because one of the distinctions that you make is related to the term body positivity versus positive body image. So talk me through that distinction and what you mean by beyond body positivity.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say that coming up with a title might be the hardest part of writing a
Oh my
book.
gosh. Yes.
So a lot of thought went into this title, actually. But in academia, the body science literature has been around for a long time, actually. And the way they talk about body image, especially with positivity here, is they call it positive body image. But out in social media, out in I don't want to say the real world, I'm trying to come up with other words there, but the non-academic world is hashtag BOPO, it's body positivity. So we wanted to make it clear that what we were going to be sharing with the reader was from the science of body image. So the science on positive body image and how we feel like we can take several approaches and come up with something that's more feasible for moms and for women.
Yeah. And the other sort of key distinction for us or key thing with the title is we want to put body image back in its place. And what we mean by that is that whether you want to sort of quibble and again, like, are you body positive? Are you body neutral? What works for different people? How are they construing it? All that gets really messy. And one of our central messages is with respect to the physical appearance part of body image, can we start thinking about that less, right? Like we're whole people and we have something called a self-concept, and that is about who we are, like the different roles we take, behaviors, hobbies, all of those things. And why are we so focused just on that physical appearance piece? That part is taking too much of the self-concept pie, right? And of course, physical appearance is part of who we are, but why do we have to think about our bodies so much? And kind of encouraging, that physical appearance piece to go. And at the same time, encouraging what the body image science does report about functionality and responsibility for your body and treating your body very well and all those things. And so we also talk about health behavior in the book, where it's not about your weight or your appearance, but it is about like you live in this body, you're responsible for it. How are you going to take care of it? And so, yeah, it really was a push to say, it's often treated in this very trite way where you have these memes that just, yay, I feel great. And it's like, how? Like, what's the roadmap and where does that take me? And is that realistic? And, and am I just by doing all this, spending too much time now, again, looking at my physical appearance? right? And so we really think taking some emphasis off of that is so important for girls and women.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot about body image being embedded in the broader self concept. And I think there's a lot of power in that realization that it is because, of course, none of us think our bodies or our appearance is most of who we are. And when we look at our daughters or young girls, we don't see their physical appearance. We see who they are as a whole person. So treating the issue outside of the whole self concept misses a very powerful way that we can approach a healthier body image, which is by minimizing its overall space in our self concept.
I love that because a lot of the hashtag body positivity posts that you see, there's still an image attached to it. Right?
Yes.
And it's an image of a body and it's an image. And so how have we, how have we made progress here? Like you're just looking at your body now and saying hashtag body positivity, but it's still about how you're showing your body or how you're perceiving your body in terms of how it looks. It's not any further. It's just putting a hashtag on it.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, and we're so glad you raised it because we talk about that a lot. And, a lot of what you see too now where body positivity is hot for a little bit, but then you see a celebrity who suddenly loses weight, right? And pick a celebrity, right? So when Adele lost weight, suddenly everybody became very angry. And part of the thing is to ask ourselves, why would I be angry, right? Well, because you're kind of putting your self-concept into other people. You're relying on other people, right? Because, oh, she was this weight at one point. That validated me. That should not have to validate you. You are valid. You don't need to be looking at who's what weight and what's acceptable and what isn't. But I think you're exactly right. What are we accomplishing by posting these things and focusing so much still on the body? Yeah.
The whole point is to move away from focusing on all of that, this distinction. And it's made so clear in the book that, body positivity is such a broad term and it means whatever the person who posted it thinks it means. And it doesn't necessarily mean that's the goal or that's what we want you to be or that's what positive body image looks like. It's just a term. People can just use it. It means whatever they think it means. May not be what you think it means. So I really appreciate the defining of these two terms in your book with such clarity. So how does body dissatisfaction develop in women?
Well, first of all, is it doesn't just spring up in the adult woman. It doesn't just appear in a grown woman. It begins and is under construction in early childhood. So as an adult woman, we're really just kind of continuing on with all of the input that we're getting. But body image scientists have kind of identified three major contributors, and these can have different levels of influence depending on where you are in your lifespan. But it's basically parents, peers, and media. And those are the three major contributors to body image. And that's going to be the three major contributors to negative body image, depending on what you're attending to and what you're letting in. But the important thing for us is body image problems or dissatisfaction are evidenced across the lifespan for women. So it's something that we can see in preschoolers that early, not all of them certainly. But we know that in adult women, as we go through freshman 15, pregnancy and postpartum, weight troubles, going through menopause, the evidence shows that even women in their 70s and beyond have body dissatisfaction. So it tends to be talked about with core groups, which is young women, adolescents. But we want to shine a light on the fact that this has been under development since the early years. And it's something that women are going to have to contend with across their lifespan. So getting in early and building a strong foundation for healthy body image and then intentionally working on across your adulthood is probably the best approach to having a healthy body image.
Yeah, I think, when we think about what the early influences are, just if you look at gender stereotyping, right? Girls are not told to be strong, or at least we're not, right? It's being petite, it's being delicate. The descriptors they even get from family members for girls and boys are very different. Yep. So from an early age, you're getting a message about don't be rough and tumbling like the boys are. Mm-hmm. Oh, isn't she so pretty? You're getting the advertising and the dolls that all look a certain way. So it's like all of these influences just start building up, right, over time. And you really can't escape it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? That's the thing about diet culture is how everywhere you go, we're kind of being manipulated. And that's starting even in girlhood. And now, of course, with social media, that brings it to a new level. But it's always been there, whether that's been dolls or clothes, family member comments, expectations about what girls and women are supposed to eat. Young girls know a lot more about what foods are caloric than boys do. There's a reason for that, right? Because society is telling them this is important information for you to know, but your brother doesn't need to know it, but you do. You might be discouraged from having a second plate in your own household, just little messages like that. And of course, for moms, it's so hard because they've been in that culture and now it's, I'm trying to model something for my daughter. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you have grown up with all of these messages and now you yourself have these insecurities very, very naturally, expectedly, unfortunately. Yeah.
There's a lot of undoing that you have to do. Or even in adolescent girls, if you see it as a problem that's just cropping up then, there's already a lot of entrenched ways of thinking that you're having to remediate or undo. So yeah, that's a major point of our book is let's try to do it as much as possible early on. But even if you are coming late to this, there's plenty in our book that can help turn it around.
We've almost allowed other people to take our agency. Like one thing that's big for us is this is something that needs to be done intentionally, just like other important choices you make in your life about what you could choose to consume in terms of media or the people that you hang out with, the influences that you allow into your life and how, we just let the culture move us around and sort of say, well, now it's this and now it's that. And here we all are running. Now we even have, menopausal women being targeted by purported groups that are trying to help you get through menopause, but of course, they're not really trying to help you. They're playing on your insecurities. And so we really emphasize this whole idea of moms and daughters having the agency and deciding for themselves. And that could look different for different women, right? There could be women who are fine on social media and women who have a lot of trouble with it. There could be women that are more or less appearance focused. And so we're certainly not dictating. It's more though, let's be intentional. Let's take stock and really think about like, what is impacting you? What is impacting your daughter, right? And let's actually have a plan for that because you need a plan given all the stuff that's coming your way.
Yeah. And I think even some of the media that has started to come up, like there's more female superheroes now. But one of the things that just drives me up a wall is that the male superheroes are getting bigger and the female superheroes are still very small. And I'm like, I don't know any strong women that look like that. Great female power, great girl power. Look at these female superheroes, but they still all look like the same. It's just diet culture in a different outfit.
Yes.
It's not any different. And so like these girls that are thinking, this is what powerful and strong looks like. This is what athletic and fit looks. No.
Right.
No.
Right. It is not. Yes.
It's not.
Yeah. We had this discussion as well around, Wonder Woman and all of these things where it's like, if there's just a tiny little hint of tricep suddenly, oh my goodness. And just the ridiculousness of who's saving the world with their long hair flowing and no sweat and full makeup. I mean, it's kind of preposterous, right? And that really again speaks to like the expectation is you can be strong, but only if you're really pretty and you don't look too strong and you don't look too masculine. Like you have a narrow window that's allowable.
Yep.
Right. And we talk about physical literacy. Why do girls, when they approach becoming teenagers, they suddenly are weary about being physically active? And it's because of those kinds of messages where it's like, oh, I don't want to look like a man. Oh, they're going to make fun of me or whatever it is. And I think it's gotten a whole lot better, but you're right. It's really not, it's not there. It's like they try to cloak it as though it's there, but it's really not when you look at the Hollywood starlets and the Hollywood machine.
No. So even when you think as a parent, you're doing a good thing and subjecting your child to like women who are strong and powerful. And it's like, yeah, but still like the message that I'm getting is, yeah, but you still have to look this way. Like you still have to fit this mold, right? Like
Exactly.
we're okay with it as long as you fit this mold.
Exactly.
And I think that can be just as destructive, because as girls, as an athlete myself, as you get stronger, your body changes. And it's not always in ways that are the traditional, like feminine, right? Like I love it, but like but that is a barrier for some women, especially like for me, I work with women who are 30, 40, 50 and beyond. And they start to strength train. So their bones are getting stronger and their muscles are developing. And they're like, why isn't the scale moving? And I'm like, because you're gaining, like you're getting, like you're going up, right? We want to go up. We don't need to go down.
Oh yeah.
But still, it's so embedded in these women that if I'm exercising and getting stronger, that I'm losing weight, and you may not. Like, you just may not.
It's very hard because that was never the message. Like exercise for women and girls is almost like punishment, right? Like you see all those things where if you eat a Snickers bar, this is how long you have to be on a treadmill. I mean, what are you talking about, right? Like we don't move for those reasons. We don't exercise for those reasons. And we want to teach our girls that, right? I mean, I only came to weight training when I was 40 and it was like, why did nobody There's nobody tell me about
I
this.
have been lied
What's
to.
happening? Yeah, and I won't lie. I mean, what you said did come to mind initially, where it's like, wow, like I'm growing biceps. I deadlift now, and that means your body shape changes and your weight changes. And I love the joy of it because it's like, wow, I can lift over 250 pounds. Like that's amazing. But yes, that doesn't take me closer to what people think you're supposed to be. And how do you
Mhm.
kind of reconcile that for yourself, right? You have to basically shut the door on it.
Yeah.
And
And
that
it's
can be a hard choice.
and it's specific to women because I've never had a male client come in and say, I've been busting my butt in the gym. I feel amazing, but I haven't lost any weight. So
Right.
this is all for nothing.
Exactly. I mean, that's laughable, right? Yeah, like
That's
you would not
never
hear anybody else
happened.
say that.
And just even the little comments too around food and like, oh, I shouldn't, I was bad yesterday,
Yes.
or little things like that
Yes.
just, I think if there are small children present, even that is something that just seems like nothing. And it probably comes out of your mouth and you don't even
Yes.
realize you said it, but
Exactly.
it's planting these seeds. Hey, you, I wanted to press pause on this episode for a second to talk about your fitness goals. Those sweet dreams of being more active and feeling athletic and confident and doing epic, adventurous shit. Or maybe you just feel like you're getting older, because we're all getting older. And you, like me, never want to give up on carrying all the groceries into the house in one shot or picking up that heavy Amazon box without worrying that you're going to throw your back out. I know you're busy. You're probably listening to this episode while multitasking. Oh yeah, I'm on to you. And the biggest thing that's stopping you from getting strong and fit is knowing how to use your workout time most effectively. Like exactly which exercises are worth your time, when to do them, and the number of sets and reps to get to your goals. You probably also tried other fitness apps and programs out there, only to feel like they weren't right for your needs. You want a program that has it all: strength, power, cardio, mobility, and recovery, all built right in without spending your whole life in the gym. And you want experienced coaches around to answer your questions and a community at your back to help you stay motivated and inspired. Look, I've been coaching women for a long time now, and the truth is that you don't need another fad diet or complicated, time-consuming workout routine to support you as you age. You just need to train smarter with simple, progressive workouts and a plan that's designed for your body and your life, whether you're navigating motherhood, midlife, or menopause. And if this sounds like exactly what you've been missing, I invite you to join Stronger 365, a progressive strength, power, and conditioning training membership for women like you who are ready to stop winging it and take their training to the next level with more structure and support. And the best part? This program has 3 different options, so you can choose your own fitness adventure based on your goals, how much time you have to train, and what equipment you have, whether you've got access to a full gym or, like me, work out at home. And it's run by me, Allison Heilig, and my awesome team at Miles to Go Athletics. Head over to the show notes for all the details and to join our membership community. And as an FBG, your first 2 weeks are on me. And now, let's get back to the episode. So we're going to go back to the beginning. You say moms are the ultimate body image influencers. And I think that's kind of with the caveat of for better or worse, right?
Yep.
Moms matter so much. And so what are some of the ways that moms can prepare themselves and improve their own body image so that they can be prepared to have a more positive influence on their young daughters?
Yeah. So I think that a lot of moms are sort of generally aware of their body image, like it's positive or it's negative. But most of them probably, and I'm saying this for myself also before we started this project, most of us aren't exactly aware of how we have a negative body image, like how we do negative body image. And so throughout this project, what we've uncovered from the science is that it's really done through the ways that we think. For example, perfectionism tendencies and neuroticism, high neuroticism, for example. But something like body dissatisfaction is actually supported by a number of psychological processes. And most of us just aren't aware of these because they're just so natural. They're second skin to us. So I think building mom's self-awareness about what goes into body image, and we spend a lot of time giving details about this, but kind of pinpointing things like how much appearance monitoring do I do, targeting specific thought patterns or behavioral patterns. And then once you become aware of it, kind of specifying intentionally, as Janet was saying earlier, what do I want my body image to be and how can I go get that? A lot of popular sources are happy to tell us, like, you need to have positive body image, but they don't tell us how to do it, and they kind of leave us hanging. And so one of the things that we really, really wanted to share with moms are that there are evidence-based ways that we can think differently, um, that we can behave differently, and that these behaviors and thoughts are now in the service of a healthier body image. So we can stop comparing ourselves to other women, for example.
The
We can
big one.
reduce social comparison. And I think a lot of us, we let negative body image happen to us, and we don't realize that this is actually something that we can practice doing differently. So when I catch myself comparing myself to another woman, I can say, wait, hold up just a second. She's not me. I'm not her. I'm different from her in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And we can kind of stop that negative thought train in its tracks. But if we don't realize that this starts with thought patterns that can be done differently, then we really don't know how we can just wake up one morning with a healthier body image.
Yeah, because women will say, I can't help it. And then they get frustrated. They're like, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on this. And then, oh, but here come those thoughts again. Yes, that's how it works. You have to like face it over, you have to practice it, right? Get the reps in. It's like, I want to deadlift 300 pounds. Cool. You don't walk into the gym and try to pick up 300 pounds.
Yeah.
You pick up a lighter weight, right? And you work your way up. You build the strength through doing the reps.
Yeah, it's a skill. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It takes practice. Yeah.
And we do believe that this isn't our fault. It's not that we have just been bad and done these thought processes poorly. It is culture. It is culture that's just inundated us and raised us in all of these unrealistic standards and the thin ideal, like you were mentioning earlier. But the thing that's so important here is that we do have the power to fight back on that.
Right.
And we can say, actually, there's some things I can do about that to do it differently. And yeah, got lots of options in our book.
Yeah.
Your book is positioned to focus on helping mothers of girls ages 3 to 10.
Yeah.
So talk me through what you found. What is the approach to positive body image development in these young girls? What are some of the key considerations for moms?
Yeah, there's a lot. And, just to preface that, there's no one thing that you say that's going to ruin your child, and certainly don't feel guilty about the habits or behaviors that you have, right? So we're coming at this with a very compassionate sort of view for mom, because this is a hard role and you've had this baggage, as we talked about. One of the things we have to consider is, and one thing that hadn't been considered in a lot of the body image literature is, what does a 3-year-old know? What does a 5-year-old know? So we cover a lot of that in the book with respect to, like, what do they know about the body? Well, how do they think about themselves? What do they know about physical activity, right? So, we talk about the early years, like you're 3, for crying out loud, right? What do you know? Well, you're listening and hearing a lot. And so a lot of it is, at that point, mom is very central, or maternal figure, right? The person you're spending the most time around, and you're absorbing a lot of what she's saying about things like food. So before, you had mentioned the moralizing of food, and that is a big one. And one of the reasons that's such a big one is, one of the first categories that kids learn is good and bad, right? The good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah.
And by putting food in that, we're like just slamming that in there, right? We're just perpetuating it. And it's very hard not to speak that way, but we do talk about, like, try to avoid that type of statement. Like, there's foods that are better eaten at certain times. There's foods that will make us feel better, right? And it's really just talking about things in that way, but it's also, what are you modeling? Like, they will notice, is mom eating differently from everyone else? Is mom not eating? Is mom saying, I shouldn't be eating this, right? All those moral statements. So they're young, but they are paying attention. So this is why, it gets back to Ashley's point of just being aware, like, oh, right, I do that. Like, I don't even realize I do that. All the fat talk that women do, right? That is just like, that's just part of what we do. You're trying to dress and it's like, this makes me look fat, or whatever it is, right? And if your child is seeing that, that's something you want to be careful about. The kinds of terms you use to describe your child at that age. They don't know personality characteristics in detail. They know behaviors. So it's emphasizing things like, wow, look at how high you jumped, right? Look at these amazing skills you have. Look at these amazing things you do. That's not to say you can't tell her she's pretty, but as we know, a lot of family members really centralize on that with girls, right? And we want to kind of like go beyond just those kinds of descriptors. So, and that's her categorical self, is just, she knows she's a girl, she knows her age. And you can start creating other categories that emphasize skills that we typically don't emphasize for girls, like being a strong person and achieving things on the playground, and not focus so much on the appearance part. Movement, right? In a 3-year-old, movement should just be fun. Isn't it fun to move our bodies, right? And we can model that as well. And then, of course, as they get older, you start encountering other things, right? Like once you're in the slightly older kids, you've got the peer group, and you've got trying to diversify gender role outside of the house, right? Rather than thinking about women doing this and men doing that.
Yeah.
kind of diversifying that, being aware of who the peers are and what's going on in the peer circle. One of the difficulties there is when girls go to other people's homes, right? If you have a play date, the food rules may be different. They may have a different food philosophy. You may hear that, we don't eat this kind of food in this house. You may hear all kind. So distinguishing for your child, like their rules are fine, right? Like good for them, not for us kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
So kind of educating around that. And then of course, as they get older, when you think about the girls that are approaching tweenhood, the girls that are in late childhood, peers, media, and just body change, right? So once you start sort of getting a sense of shame, and if you have been body shamed, which unfortunately many girls by that point have, right? That's a very difficult thing to deal with. So we try to say, try to dialogue with your child throughout development about bodies come in different shapes and sizes, and your body will change. And you're preparing them for puberty. Like it's totally normal and fine that your body has changed. You might see this decline in wanting to be physical. Ideally, you've again emphasized throughout like physical literacy, movement, why we move. And you can kind of be open about, yeah, it might feel uncomfortable, but really confront these ideas that girls shouldn't sweat or the discomfort that comes with gym class, because that is where you see a lot of girls starting to have more trouble and kind of saying, I'm not interested anymore. Or they're going more toward the aesthetic sports area, which is just its own thing where we kind of, not to discourage it, but you have to be careful, right? When you have a sport that inherently emphasizes being lean. And is it the sport or are you looking for a certain body type, and what's the dialogue there? Open discussion about, what it means to respect your body that focuses on cultivating health behavior. We also talked about how we don't really teach kids food and physical literacy, right? We just expect you to figure this out. That's a big part of body image. Feeling good in your body. Like we all know, sure, you can eat the bag of Halloween candy. Let's try that out and see what happens. Bet you don't feel so great. That's a good lesson, right? Why don't you feel so great? Well, let's talk about it, right? Or, you have a soccer game coming up. Here's what you need to be considering to eat to have energy. And similarly, why would we move our body? Why would we build muscle? And so we talk about, through these different ages, how to sort of approach those topics based on the girl's developmental level. Because we think that, again, like, why are we focusing just on the one piece of, body image? Yay, but body image is so many things. And that means physical literacy and eating behaviors as well. Yeah.
And I just wanted to emphasize that this tailored approach based on developmental level is something else that I think is kind of new about our book, that you won't find elsewhere, because we may come up with a good message about body image for little girls, but if we don't tailor that to what they can understand or what makes sense to them at their developmental level, then it's just totally lost. So we can't have the same message. One size doesn't fit all when it comes to the message here.
Yeah, I do love to your point, Janet, about the sports. I'll be 45 this year. So when I was growing up, the girl sports were baton twirling in the equivalent of a sequined bathing suit, gymnastics, figure skating, right? And again, all of them are wearing the equivalent of a bathing suit, right? You can't avoid it. Like if you're going to be involved in those types of activities, there's always going to be a light shining on your body because you're on display. It's a performance, right? And so I'm so happy that girls have more options now to be physically active that are not putting them in a bathing suit and having them perform. Because, and again, I was not great at it, but I had a good time when I was, a sparkleette. But there was still a big piece of me that was like, you start to recognize that you don't look the same as your peer group necessarily. And there was a tendency for the girls who had larger bodies to fall off and not do these things anymore. And then they were not being active. And no, we've just created another barrier to health for girls because we have made them feel like my body looks in a way that doesn't make this appropriate for me. And you're not giving them options to like wear shorts and a t-shirt and go play soccer, right? I'm so glad that more and more girls are getting those options.
Absolutely. And I think if moms want to have their, if daughters want to be in a more aesthetic-based sport, then just being vigilant about what is the coaching like? And are they commenting on bodies? Is it really about the sport itself? Is dance class really about the dance moves, or are they commenting on your weight or that your tummy's sticking out? And so watching, if your daughter is really sort of intent on doing those things, just be watchful of like, what is the philosophy of the dance school? What is the philosophy of the coach? Like, what are they saying to these girls? Because that just puts you in a more vulnerable place than it would for other sports where, like you wear a t-shirt and shorts and you're running out on the field and you're sweating and none of the rest matters. So we do need to kind of pay attention to that.
Yeah. And I can see that could be theoretically a place where girls develop body confidence, right? If it's approached correctly, like we don't make a big deal out of it because, maybe this helps them feel more confident in their body, more positive body image. that they can be in those situations, but it is such a fine line. So I love this distinction of looking at how it's being approached. What does your daughter feel about it? What are her friends having this conversation with her
Exactly.
about? Does she like the outfit? Because nobody asked me that. They were just like, if you want to do it, this is the outfit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, right. I was on a cheer dance team and the little skirt was very short. And the
Yeah.
reason I joined it is because I actually was in dance and that was the only way to have an outlet. But did I love wearing the little tiny skirt? No, for me, that's never been comfortable. I mean, to each their own, but it was like, well, if you want to do the sport, that's the outfit that you're wearing and that's the outfit that you're photographed in. You didn't really get a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Anything else that you guys want to share? Any takeaways?
We see this as a positive thing in terms of this is an opportunity to arm yourself and to arm your daughter. So throughout the book, there's body image building tools, there's optional activities. It's very actionable and it's not super complex. And people are busy. This is one more thing to add to mom's plate on top of all of her responsibilities. But we think it's a very worthwhile thing given sort of the ramifications of having negative body image. So it's often treated as like a trite or superficial topic, or why can't these women just get over themselves? And it's like, hold up. This is a serious topic. It has serious implications for girls and women. We want them to be healthy. And we don't want a lifetime of undoing things when we can actually be proactive. We want to enjoy our lives. We want to see value in our lives. And we are so much more than our appearance. And we can actually shut the door. We have the power and agency to use tools to say, I reject that. I reject comparing myself to other women. I reject a booty challenge. I don't need to be doing any of this. And so stop trying to convince me to sort of like go to the other side, right? As you noted, like you have to actively work at it as you would anything. But I think that presents a very, very optimistic image, optimistic situation for moms and daughters. And that was certainly our intention here is to say, hey, you have power. And yeah, you are the ultimate influencer. So, go for it. Like make it better for yourselves. Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that all, we definitely emphasize that this is something that moms can take hold of and be agentic about. But at the same time, we realize that nobody's perfect and nobody's going to say the right thing every time. All of us are going to have a moment where we express a dissatisfaction and it's going to happen in front of our daughter and we're going to be like, oh no, the whole thing is messed up now. But we don't feel that that's the way the process happens at all. And actually, if any of the changes in thinking and behaving that we suggest in the book are implemented, it contributes to healthier body image, even in small bits. So you don't have to get the whole thing correct. And we want to take pressure off of moms in that way. But we also want to like arm them with the knowledge that they do have the power to make a positive impact where they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like an onion. I feel like I get to a place where I have positive body image and then some other challenge comes along and I'm like, oh, there it is again.
Yeah.
And I think that too, there's some power in acknowledging that is completely normal.
Yes.
That like if positive body image is a skill that you build, there are going to be situations where you are faced with a challenge that is above your skill level.
Yes.
And so you're going to feel like, I don't have the positive body image skill to navigate this situation. Like, I feel like women go through, like you guys mentioned in the beginning, you have your teenage years, which are fun. And then you have your freshman 15. And then if you decide to have children, then you have this body change. And then, you're in your 40s and you're going through perimenopause. So here's another body change for you. So as women, we have to navigate this over and over in our lives.
Yeah.
And you might get to a place where you feel like I'm skilled in this. And then the next thing comes along and you are suddenly not as skilled as you.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
So like set your daughter up for knowing that that's going to happen, right? Like I think there's a really good place there to have that conversation because it is going to be something that she's going to have to navigate. And I think knowing that in a lot of ways helps because then you don't feel like you're failing when you hit the next challenge. It's like, oh, I've been working so hard on this. I thought it was gone. It's not going away. You're going to always be subjected to outside stuff and you're always going to be changing and evolving.
Exactly. The challenges will continue to be there, but you're kind of preparing yourself with the toolbox and practicing. And for girls too, like you think about comments about weight, even just telling girls like how to respond when someone decides to talk about your body, which again, our generation was never really armed with. You're either just stunned, you're upset, you don't really know what to do with
or
it,
you
right?
Just smile or not.
Because you're taught to do that, sugar and spice, absolutely. And it's like, no, we can actually implement tools, and you're right. It doesn't mean we have to stay on our feet because the culture is always going to come at you sometimes in unpredictable ways or in places where you think you're safe. I mean, I complained about my gym having this booty challenge where all you're showing is a woman's rear. right? You're not showing, like, we know who the booty challenge is for, and the booty challenge is not about strength.
Nope.
It's about appearance. So stop pretending that that's what this is, right? You're always encountering it. And you always have to like step back and go, okay, wait a second, right? Like, why am I paying attention to
And
this?
it's hard because everyone else looks at it and goes, oh yeah, that's normal. That tracks. You know, and you're like, am I the only one who sees this?
Exactly. Yeah. Becoming aware. Yeah.
Those mess up moments, Allison, that you mentioned, are actually very valuable because one of the things we know can help you have a healthier body image is to extend yourself self-compassion. And that's something you have to practice. And it would be fantastic if we could start modeling how to practice that for girls. So, use the slip up and say, yeah, I said that and I felt it. But I've thought about that since then. And I actually don't deserve to be thought about that way or to be treated that way. So I'm going to give myself a pass on that. And I want to encourage you, when you have a bad thought about yourself, to say, I'm not going to treat myself like that. I wouldn't let other people treat me like that. I won't let myself.
Right. Yeah.
Teach the kid how to give the compassion they give to other people to themselves. Right? Because we are teaching girls to be nice and to be sweet and to be polite and to don't say bad things about people. But where is all of that for themselves? Right? And that's so hard for women to do, right? Just self-criticism, we're on a hair trigger. It's like something happens and like, boom, we're straight to self-judgment.
We're very good at that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like our here in a 60 in under a second.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. This was so awesome. I just want to tell people that when you get the book and you start to look at it, it is broken down in really digestible ways. So if you get it and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to read all of this. Like, there's sections on middle childhood and early childhood. So if your kid is young, just start with the early childhood section, right? You can give yourself a couple of years to get through the other sections. And then that way too, you're staying focused and present on the stage of development that child is and not getting overwhelmed by all of the things they're going to learn and how are you going to combat them. It's like, just focus on the here and now. Great. So obviously people can and should pick up your book, Beyond Body Positive. Your publisher has given us a 15% off coupon code and free shipping. If people would like to purchase it through this publisher, they can also get it on Amazon. We will link to both of those in the show notes. You also have a blog. Tell me about that and who should check that out.
Yeah, so that's with Psychology Today. It's called Head Start for Healthy Body Image. You can just type that in and you'll find it. And that focuses on just a number of issues related to, its brief blog post focus on a number of issues related to both women and girls, just body image considerations, trends that come up that we kind of unpack, like, what does this mean for you? There was a term mid-size a few years ago, like, what does that mean for you? Calling out body positivity. There's a post talking about like the role of men, right? We don't talk about men in this book, but men, of course, are an important part of this picture, how they think about women, how they treat women, how they think about their daughters. So we cover a range of topics and we try to post every couple months on that blog. Yeah.
Great. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. And then people can also find you on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We will link to all of those so people can find you there as well.
Great.
This was so, so wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. I appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. But don't worry, we're dropping new episodes every Thursday. In the meantime, head over to the show notes for all the links from today's episode, or go to fitbottomedgirls.com/podcast to catch up on past episodes. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next week.